tied to money. We also have prepared a compensation proposal for today, and but I thought maybe we just kind of revisit the language just to kind of see where you all are at. We can help answer questions that you may have from them. So I think that would be on page 13 from last time, section 4, reclassification. Here we had highlighted reclassification for groups. This is in 4.1.1. Reclassifications for groups of ESP employees shall be initiated through the collective bargaining process at the end of their specific review. We had kind of asked, we didn't want to change there. We just wanted clarification on when and what are the specific review cycles for groups of ESP employees. Like, is there a regular schedule or calendar when that happens? And what is just to define that a little bit more. And we had kind of put some placeholder language in there about the review cycle for groups of ESE employees shall be as follows. If we want to, it doesn't have to be very in depth. It could just be kind of general points. So I don't know if you had time to gather anything there or not.
So I can say that there haven't been reclassifications of groups recently outside of what's happened through collective bargaining here at the table when positions have been regraded.
Okay.
And I don't know the history of how we got to that being the process, but
yeah,
but in recent years that's where it's been happening.
Yeah, it's yeah, because it says, you know, it's initiated through collective bargaining at the end of the reviews, at the end of the review cycle. So yeah, we don't know the history either there, because that would make sense, like kind of like insurance committee, right? We talk about things and then if there are major changes that would be subject to collective bargaining, but it sounds like it.
And because when those regrades happen, it does create then trickle down effects, right? Because if this position moves to a different regrade, then I'm sure you hear as well as we do, well, now what about this position and so forth. So I think over past years, we've been mindful of trying to do it in a manner that's equitable, right? Not to create some of those for somebody who is in a position that would require higher skill set or different type of work is regraded below another. So I think it's something that we need to hold on for right now, because the question would be, if we really had a review cycle and we're doing that, then when we're here at the table, those questions about regrades wouldn't be part of that cycle, right? And so maybe depending on what our shared belief is around what the better practice is, and we can bring back something to you as well, but I think that's something for your team to talk about also. Yeah,
and I don't know how old this language is. I could probably go back in the, as Mr. Gibson says, the Dead Sea Scrolls and see if we can find out.
But when we found, I was gonna say, when we found the form was last revised from 2004, tells me that there probably hasn't been a lot of process around it in a while.
Yeah, so it might actually include, I mean, we might need to sit and actually look at even the other parts here, because it says normally, first it's saying it's bargained at the end of a cycle, and then normally requests for reclassification of positions would be submitted the same year as the related classification review. So like some of that may just be, like you said, it's outdated, we don't do that. But even if there is a form when maybe we're not aware of it, or if an administrator, because it says only an administrator may initiate a request, but you know, and then there's that with this form is here for, you know, we've initiated it through our labor relations and then collective bargaining. So it might be something that we need to talk a little bit more about. But again, a lot of this was highlighted to kind of talk it through. We had proposed that the form actually be in the contract in Appendix E, which I know we passed last time. That's why we highlighted things like form, and then that we would review to make any form. So, I mean, make any changes to the form. So we're open to look at that. I don't know that we have any necessary changes to this, but what we did bring today was some information about a reclassification request that I believe Regina has been working on with you all, but we have that for you with the impacted employees and the job descriptions, just to kind of help with that. Do you have one? Okay. You want to have a copy of those. So it's got the form and all the rationale. That kind of, this is why this is coming up too. Like maybe we can help, whatever we do here then can inform what we do with the language.
I'll take them the form.
Okay, so this is the existing form
Yes.
on the top?
Yeah, and that's the form that we proposed last time for Appendix E.
Mhm.
And then the form is like 1, 2, 3, like 3 pages front and back, and then you get to the actual reclassification request. This is for the HR representative.
Okay, I see, yep.
And then I don't know if Regina wants to speak a little more to it.
So I thought this was a good outline. It's not on the actual form that we have that exists. But it goes through and explains the reason on why they are requesting reclassification, and the duties that align with the reclassification request. And then it also has, they did a great job organizing actually, so getting getting support from their colleagues, and signatures here. And then towards the back is the current job descriptions to compare both positions. I don't think all reclassification will probably have like a comparison, so to say, but this is a request that they are submitting.
So it's to request to change one job description's classification to match the other?
Yes.
Got it. Okay, okay.
And it's based on the
Job duties.
the job duties have probably evolved.
Mhm.
Did you guys determine that maybe there's needs updates to the job description too, or just?
Yes, and
based on
that,
that?
yes, and that would be also listed here. And I know the
Okay, got
job description doesn't include all of those, but definitely highlighting some new things that they are doing that are not listed in the actual job description.
Well, this is good as a starting point for us to take back and to read through and to understand, and compare it to the existing language as well, to determine if this may be the
Yeah.
process that would be
Yeah.
appropriate based off what the existing language says.
Mhm.
And so just for clarity, the reclassification form
Mhm.
was for an individual to bring to their supervisor when an individual is requesting it. And then the language in the contract, this 4.1.1, is talking about the reclassification cycle and through the bargaining process. So that it's a little bit different,
Yeah,
potentially.
right,
I
and I mean,
yeah.
if we're open to the fact that we're not, I mean, nobody knows what the cycle is, like the working cycle is, so that was kind of the way we're addressing it this time, right? Like, if only the administrator can initiate it, but by having the form at least accessible to employees that maybe, like they've done, they've come together and said, hey, we want to address this. And they may have, I don't know, I mean, they have multiple supervisors, I don't know, I think in this case, there's probably just one.
They have a supporter there.
Yeah. So in that case, then they could bring the supervisor and it goes, but I think maybe that we can maybe talk to and caucus like how to streamline this. Maybe we just take out that there's a annual cycle and just kind of be clear that administrators may initiate the request, employees may also initiate through their administrator by providing, I think this is a great example of what these employees did. They got the information, they're actually trying to show the rationale. And then whether the administrator agrees or doesn't agree, maybe then there's a path, once, kind of like choose your own adventure. The supervisor administrator is great, then that goes. If not, then maybe it goes another way, either through us, we can initiate it. I don't know. I'm just talking out loud right now.
Yeah, no, this is
So,
good.
and I think we're okay. I'm just saying this off the cuff, leaving this as is, maybe if we can at least settle on the form, even if we leave it, I don't know.
We may need to update it, because
Okay.
I know it's like, how many words you typewriter.
Okay.
It's referenced as a typewriter. So shorthand, I think.
Yeah, okay, so then let's not, we won't worry about trying to hammer it out right now, but maybe continue to hold on this and let's talk and work on this. And then I know Regina's still pushing this one or helping push this one through.
This is an actual proposal, not just an example. Okay, all right. So
Okay.
separate from also wanting to clarify the process of
Yeah.
reclassification,
Yeah.
but then this is a proposal.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I think maybe as us maybe working through this, it helps us define what needs to go here. And even if we don't get it, maybe this year we can reopen it I think next year's a full book, actually.
Already, that was.
I know.
So.
So-
We just did it. I was like,
Okay, okay. So
Right.
maybe we'll reopen it if we need
Okay.
to, just why we handled this out, so.
And I thought it was good to bring this one because I know what we highlighted where it says, reclassifications of groups of ESP employees. And because we weren't sure on what the review cycle is, I thought it would be great to bring to the table. And maybe we can look through some of the things that the categories, how they have it like all listed out. Maybe that'll help us with updating the new form too.
No, it's good for us to take this back. Obviously, a lot to be through, digest it and compare it to the language and talk more about it.
Okay, all right. I can't remember why page 14 I included. I feel like maybe something.
They just finished up with the classification description.
Okay, all right, so page 14 didn't have any changes then.
Okay.
Okay. Then we got to this Article 7. So this is 7.3.1. I realize I'll probably need help taking notes here. 7.3.1 has to do with substitute ESP employees. So you want to speak to it again?
Oh, no.
Oh, okay. So yeah, so this was the proposal that the clerical employees serving as a sub for another clerical employee would be compensated. That supplement of $5 more per hour.
Right.
Yeah.
And so in looking at support employees, so working an 8.5-hour day and being compensated for 8 hours of that. If there is another clerical member who's absent from work that day, there may be some timely duties of that employee that have to be performed. And I'll just use, you're the person who does the sign in and sign out of students, right? Like somebody has to do that job every day.
Right.
And so we recognize that, but if another employee now takes on those responsibilities, there would be other duties that they're then not performing related to their job. So it's not a duplication of duties or doing both of them simultaneously. There would be an expectation that there's some things that the other employees are not, tending to. So to do an additional pay supplement or hourly supplement related to that, we're not in a position to be able to do that. With the idea that the employee is still doing 8 hours of work, right? Those duties might just be a little bit different that day.
Okay.
And then,
So I believe that this is proposed from our clerical employees because typically in a front office where you have bookkeeper, data processor, and secretary 1, as well as secretary 4. If the secretary 1 is out, then that infringes on the duties of, for instance, data processor. If it's FTE time, if it's grading period time, where that may take all day. And so if I am now doing 4 hours as the secretary and 4 hours in the office as VP, and then I end up falling behind with my regular work. And I think that is where that is coming from. Same thing, whether it's bookkeeper having to come up, then their monthly reports may not get submitted in a timely fashion. And so that is why this language was brought about. I know last year that it was brought up that Kelly Services provide clerical substitutes. But a lot of people don't see that at all or never even heard of it within the clerical units. And so continuously throughout the year, there's clerical employees that are subbing, whether it's backing up for DP, secretary, bookkeeper, or maybe you have more than one person that is out, and so you're doing multiple things, and that's how this came about.
and we do understand that they need to happen when an employee is out. But in terms of being able to provide additional pay per hour when those individuals are out, we're just not in a position to be able to do that. Now, if there was an extended absence, right, there may be, I hear what you're saying, it's FTE time and there's got to be FTE rosters done and so forth. That would be an appropriate example where an administrator could ask for the approval of comp time for that employee to work to complete those tasks that are critical and have to be done.
Okay,
beyond the workday.
Correct, beyond the workday.
okay, so just to clarify, if for any reason, you have clerical folks in offices to where subbing is infringing on their work, they should request comp time to be able to complete their work if it's gonna go beyond that 8 hour mark.
Yes, if it's gonna be at work beyond their normal workday, yes. And again, it has to be critical work, right? There are certain times of the year where we know there are things that have a deadline, for instance, that would be appropriate to request that additional comp time. And it does have to be approved through their principal or site administrator. And that site administrator would get approval to be able to award that comp time.
Yeah, and I think it would be important too, to kind of, for the employee to also document that, because if there's a situation where, hey, no, it's, you can't work beyond the workday, but then had to do all this work and maybe it wasn't to the best quality or something was missed, that then later on, they wouldn't get, penalized for that in an evaluation or called out for that. And it's like, well, that's because, last month or whatever, we didn't have enough coverage. So I think that would also be the message to employees. So like to make those requests, to
Absolutely.
seek the request, so then, if something really isn't getting done for whatever reason, to kind of document that in conjunction with, this is why we're making the request so that they're covered. Okay, so I understand the first part. I know what we did then is we struck the part that said when a school-based clerical has been absent 2 consecutive days, a substitute may be provided third day of absent and all days thereafter until regular employee returns to work. I think we had kind of incorporated that into the top when the absent clerical employee is absent more than 3 days and no substitute is provided thereafter until the regular employee returns to work, then the workload should be evaluated and considered as a concurrent appointment for the clerical substitute.
So you would put that back in, whether, I think I hear you saying, right?
Is that already in there? Or go ahead. Let me look at this.
Right now, it's
I think
headed
that, the part that is struck out in red, I guess the thing that's kind of off-putting is, says that a substitute may be provided for the third day consecutive. And so I've talked to a lot of clerical staff to where they don't have a secretary for months. And they are filling in that role. And as we know in elementary, they don't have a bookkeeper, so to say. So it may be just the DP that has to stay up there 24/7, regardless on any important work or deadlines. And so that's another reason why this is being brought up, because not every school has 2 or more people that can back up. So that just puts the person way behind or like trying to double 2 things at one time.
And we do have in contract language that if there's a vacancy, because I hear you talking about somebody maybe for months having to do it, where an employee can temporarily be put into a position at the higher pay grade in order to provide additional compensation to them, which could help in some of those situations. I would also encourage, if there's a unique situation like that of the employee working with the site administrator, and work with their regional, that can always work with us to determine, is there additional opportunity for overtime? But each situation is just so different depending on the nature of what those 2 roles are that you're describing. So I think we just have to look in contract language where we would potentially have an avenue for that employee to receive additional compensation if they could go into that higher classification position. And then if that's not the case, because maybe they're the secretary 1 trying to take on some of the data processor duties, we might have to look at doing something differently.
Yeah, so is that is what 7.5.1 is kind of, I think that's kind of what we're trying to link there, right? So 7.5.1 says an ESP employee may hold more than 1 permanent ESP position at the same time if the total regular hours of the positions do not exceed 40 hours per week. So I don't know if what that is referring to, but I think that's kind of what we're getting at, right? It's like employees are feeling like, well, if I'm doing two duties, I'm trying to like double time it within 40-hour work week or the 7.5-hour day. And then it does say a permanent ESP may be hired in a temporary ESP position as long as the total regular working hours of the permanent position and the temporary position do not exceed 40 hours. So we have provisions here about this. In those cases, If ESP is required to work beyond 40 hours per week, the employee will be paid overtime in those cases. That's defining concurrent appointments.
Yeah, I think there's also, you see different vacancies. Sure, but I think there's another
Where?
component that talks about
That goes
the,
with this.
yes.
So if you are in a position of coverage,
And there's
where
a
you're holding a
vacancy.
concurrent appointment for the vacancy, that you would then be paid at the higher pay grade.
Yes, also under 7.1.1 talks about temporary appointments. Shall normally be made to fill positions vacated as a result of an extended leave and shall not exceed the length of the leave. So when unusual circumstances inhibit the filling of an extended leave vacancy, because the administrator can fill that potentially, the circumstances will be reported to the Division of Human Resources. And temporary appointments may also be made to cover peak workload periods or other extenuating circumstances. If you go down to that next paragraph, when filling vacancies created as a result of an extended leave, the principal supervisor shall make every attempt to fill it with a qualified employee. And then a permanent employee serving this temporary assignment or acting will be paid at their current step on the pay grade at the higher classification. I think that's where that opportunity exists for us to be able to do that.
Yeah, and it sounds like in these situations, we need to just trigger this language to try to, and I think that's maybe where this is coming from, is that maybe some confusion about an extended vacancy when I think that's like, what is that defined as? And I think that's where they were trying to go here, where we're trying to go here too, when someone's absent more than 3 days and there's no sub provided thereafter, like we can't get the sub.
So it's more those
would
short-term
that would
absences.
yeah, so
Short-term, but longer than a day.
yeah, because we know that
So trying to find a middle spot.
yeah.
Okay.
So maybe Regina and I and the team, we can kind of, we understand that the pay is not doable, but maybe there's something we can do to kind of, I don't know, trigger this where it all like goes together after a certain amount of time, because I mean, someone could just, hey, I'm gonna be out. And then it turns out that, oh, actually, they're never back. So after 3
That
days,
never
it's like,
happened.
yeah, right, that never happened. So that then after a certain point, or even making it permissive that, if a short-term vacancy kind of fits into this, the concurrent, where an employee really is doing both these duties, then 7.51 and 7.11 shall apply.
I think,
Okay.
highlighting just the asking for pre-approval
Yeah.
for comp time would be one option there.
Yeah,
And then to your point of triggering this language once it becomes more of a prolonged absence.
yeah. Okay, I think that helps. I think that also helps us talking that out for employees here too, so they're aware of all this language and how it plays together, but also our intent of why we were trying to kind of tie that together too. So, okay, so it sounds like we need homework on this too. All right, so we'll review that. We did another money proposal here. We know we had paraprofessionals that serve as classroom aides, may serve as subs for their assigned teacher. The paraprofessional will be compensated with supplemental pay of $15 more per hour for the hours they perform as a sub if their assigned teacher is absent without a sub. The paraprofessional should only serve as a substitute for other teachers they are not normally assigned to in an emergency and will be compensated with supplemental 15. So this is a new section or a new item, 7.33. And the goal here is, as we put in the notes, is to actually, if a para is subbing, to actually have it mirror what starting pay is for a teacher. So
Well, and that was gonna be my exact point, is that raising it from the 10 to the 15 does bring it up to the starting pay of a teacher. Last year, based off the numbers that we ran, we paid out over $457,000 for para as sub. And so increasing that by another $5 and bringing it up to that teacher rate of pay, knowing that the paraprofessional is not responsible for planning, they're not responsible for a lot of those other duties that the teacher is responsible for, we're not in a position to be able to raise it to that. So we would leave it as it is currently under 7.7.1.
yeah, because that was our proposal, was to strike it there and update it there, because it kind of kind of made sense there within the whole concept of subs.
Yeah, and I think
Study.
moving it, the existing language over there does make sense. I think
Okay.
anywhere where we can clean up, so people aren't trying to, like we were just doing, going back and
Yeah.
forth, trying to find the right place.
Control F.
What is this note? Not true. Look at the job description of.
The having to do planning with the teacher. It's in the job description, and we do.
Well, but working under the direction of the teacher, so a temporary substitute position, there would not be an expectation to take on all of that teacher's work.
And maybe that's something we can help clarify in here too, that if a paraprofessional is doing that, but that's not their job description, or that's not the expectation. To the point of, if they are truly, because we know that a paraprofessional in their day-to-day job is under the supervision of a teacher, but if they are providing sub work, then we would need to be clear that then you're not doing actually what a classroom teacher would do.
Right.
Right.
I'm gonna pull up the job.
Pulling up job.
This is for the para as a sub?
No,
job
just
description?
para.
Paraprofessional.
Oh, yeah. But their job description regularly is when they're under the supervision or direction of a teacher, right?
Right,
But when they're performing the duty of a sub,
right,
There's
but
no
on
teacher
a
there,
daily
right?
basis, because we're talking about the teacher is out that day, a sub has been requested, because that's one of the caveats as well, there has to be a substitute that's been requested, right? And when no substitute shows up, just like that substitute would not be expected to have done the daily lesson planning, the paraprofessional wouldn't be expected to just on a whim be able to produce lesson plans either, but that's still the teacher's responsibility to lead those.
yeah, well, that's what I'm trying to get at, that like, that would not be the job expectation of a para performing the sub of a classroom to then prepare daily lesson plans independent of the teacher.
Right, that's still the teacher's.
Yeah,
responsibility.
that's what I'm just trying to get to the point of, like, we need to clarify that, because if they are being asked to do that, then we would need that information to show, well, actually, it is happening, this is why. Anything else on that?
Can I speak up?
Sure.
So how does that work when you have a para that is covering a class that does not have a teacher and ends up covering the class for the whole entire year and is doing grades and planning and tests?
There should be a long-term substitute that's assigned to that class if there's truly a teacher of record for that.
And if there's
But
not,
there hasn't.
Not they're making $10 more per day.
Right, there is that additional supplement as well that's already in the contract language. But again, that should be a conversation with the administration because there's an avenue for us to get long-term subs and even daily subs in those classrooms.
Making $10 more per hour every day for the rest for that year.
Right, and that person would be making an additional $10 more per hour every day.
that should be, yeah.
I just wanted to ask it, I mean, to what extent is this happening across the district? That seems unusual. I just want to use that word, right? And I think it's probably more, is it more common than, all right. What we'll do with our employees, we'll ask what's going on out there and maybe talk a little bit more about that. That just seems a little.
And I will say there are situations where we've gotten requests of instead of having a substitute
There you
to
go.
allow the
Right, they
parent
know that too.
to earn that
Yeah.
extra money.
Sure.
You know, and they want to be in that and make the extra money. et
Qualify
cetera.
that, yeah.
So,
Cool, thank you.
All right, then. On the topic of money, we are then moving on to, because that was Article 7. This is Article 9. Work years and hours, we had made some proposals there to 9.2.3 and 9.2.4. For our ESE paraprofessionals, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and the hearing technicians to extend their day from 7.5 to 8 hours. And then, we did add a proposal there in 9.2.3 for the effort to be made to provide time to review emails or Teams for those folks too.
And going back to the last meeting that we had, that was the meeting where we did talk about our budget. Our CFO did a presentation around budget, and I know that we haven't gotten to a point yet of talking about an economic proposal. But this would be a significant increase to the district in terms of paying all of these different jobs now at a full 8 hours. And so we're not in a position to be able to do that right now. And I think that until we can get to that part of really talking about an economic proposal, of understanding a little bit more about what that's gonna look like.
Yeah. Have you guys had a chance to talk that out yet? I haven't either, but.
I don't have that one with me
For that
today.
particular,
Yeah.
okay.
But I can get that back to you.
Yeah, and I'll try to work on it too. Just thought maybe.
The top out for the comp time that was paid out. I know that's one of the reasons why we thought about bringing this forward, because we know that the comp time payout for last year was huge. And we thought definitely that because there are a lot of, ESC professionals that are staying for late buses or late parent pickup or just some monitor students. So we're sure that and confident that is where a lot of the comp time requests are coming from and being approved by administrators. And so this was our way of saying, hey, pretty much a lot of them are staying for 20, 30 minutes anyway. So they might as well just get paid regular versus comp time where you're paying overtime. So that's why we brought that forward.
And we can compare that. We can take a look at what the
Yeah.
cost would be to extend the workday 30 minutes versus the comp time payout for just those groups, those job
Yeah, I
descriptions.
think that would be very good, yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, The, in 9.2.3, the line where you put in time to
Oh, yes.
review emails and Teams, are we okay with seeing that part of the change in blue?
We're gonna hold on that right now, just to better look at that 7.5 hour day and how it compares to student hours at each of our different levels. And then we can come back to that, and at the same time that we bring you that comparison.
Right, then on to 18.9.2. All right, we had highlighted some things here about staff meetings that require attendance. And then in the second part there, the ESP may be required to attend beyond the normal workday up to 2.5 hours per year with 1 day's notice. And I think even if in these cases, if they're beyond the workday, they should be paid, right, by Fair Labor Standards Act. It's not, this is not it says content there, okay. I forget why we highlighted that now.
Is that happening a lot? Do you hear that that's happening a lot, or is it just really highlighting that there should be compensation there in terms of comp time?
I think it was more so pointing out as well why the 8-hour day is important, because if they are being required to kind of say over 2.5, and that's comp time that's automatically having to be paid out. And that also is being brought up because a lot of ESPs, I know we've said it before, but a lot of ESPs do not get to attend faculty meetings. So that's one thing. As well as professional development, they're usually not asked to come because of the of having to be paid comp time or needing approval from admin to come. And so all of those things compounded together is why we believe that if that group of ESPs are working 8 hours, then they'll be able to have extra time every week, every day to try to be engaged in professional development, being on the same track as teachers that they support in the classroom every day. And just having, being able to create that culture, because everyone's busy until, the last little, either earlier in the day or the last part of the day. Many ESPs, when they come into work, they don't have time to check emails or Teams because they come right into students and they leave right out with students. And so that's why we also included that piece as well.
Okay.
And then, we did make a proposal there in 18.9.2 about, the administration at the ESC centers would use one Tuesday per month for professional development opportunities for ESPs. And we listed a number of things that, would support the latest strategies and legal requirements related to student behavior management and special education.
And we want you to know that we hear about the needs around the ESC centers, both at the table here with our ESP and paraprofessional, as well as with the instructional group. And so we do bring back these concerns to them, that there's a need for this and a want around this. So we're communicating that with them. At this time, we're not going to put it into the contract, but we do want you to know that we share this information with them so that they, as they're planning for the year, can try to address what some of these concerns are. And I know I think, had a very productive meeting around the professional learning committee, if I'm calling it the right thing, Regina, that you did towards the end of the year. And a lot of that has been brought back. And I know that there were already some changes that are being implemented around training opportunities and so forth.
And specifically with the ESE centers, do you know, or have you heard anything about anything that may be happening this year to kind of align with some of these things that these folks are seeking?
I can get more information
Yeah.
and share that with you.
Yeah, I think that would be great to kind of hear back based on like what we're passing to you, pass to them, like what's coming of that. Okay. And then 18.9.4, this did go back to staff meetings where the ESP employees may attend staff meetings during their workday. It already says that teacher and service programs on a space available basis, voluntary basis. So this was kind of that, to include that there. And then the next part of this, I believe, had to do with, information concerning the teacher in service programs would be made available. So we wanted to be kind of specific about teacher in service programs to be made available to ESP employees in the association. And then adding this part, when an ESP employee desires to attend a teacher in service program, they shall make the request in writing or email to their supervisor. We would take out immediate. And then the employee shall be notified of placement in the program or provide the reason for the non-placement in writing, at least one day prior. I think that's the thing. It's like, hey, we got you in, or hey, there was no space. So I think that was the goal there, was just to kind of have a little process to it. So it's, how do I get in?
Yeah, no, and I like the idea of being able to submit that in writing to the supervisor, so it's clear that that's what the ask is. The challenge that we have around this is that the supervisor doesn't ultimately make that decision, okay? And so if they don't get the response from whoever the trainer is for that, or if it's something that's through PDS, and there's different avenues depending on, is it a PDS course versus is it something that's being offered on professional study day? And so how do we guarantee that administrator is even going to get feedback to give to the ESP? So the intent behind it is great. And I know that's one of the things that we talked about on that committee is the desire that ESPs have for training. And our PL department that served on that committee did talk about that, yes, when there's space available. We also got some clarity that oftentimes that space is driven by costs associated with it also. And so that's why teachers have the preference, because they're the ones that are charged with knowing that curriculum and being able to deliver it. So the concern is just guaranteeing that there's going to be a response. The supervisor might not even get the response in time.
If they train.
Yeah, and because part of me is thinking then in the first part, or I guess it's the second sentence, where it talks about information concerning the teacher in service program should be made available. Maybe in there it should be the information concerning the program, including who and how to, I guess, apply, apply for it, right? And then something like that. So that, because that's the thing, if the ESP doesn't know who do I contact, and they can't actually, but that, I think that's back to the point that they actually don't have the ability to go in and actually register for it like a teacher. So we need to kind of figure out if that information is made available, how and who. That's really what we're looking for. And whether it's a supervisor or the supervisor directs them to talk to the course leader, if there's maybe it's even just, for education support professionals who are interested, please contact whoever that may be. If it's a supervisor at the time, great. If it's the trainer of the course, And that way they can at least know that somebody heard them and get some kind of response.
I would recommend, so if it is a PBS, because I think too, some of this language, teacher in service programs, like what are you specifically talking about, right? Because like professional study day that we just had is more of a teacher in service program that was developed as opposed to ongoing professional development courses that are in PBS. There is a trainer that is usually listed in PBS, and then that individual can be emailed. Obviously, though, the supervisor would have to be looped in to say,
Right.
yes, I am approving for this person to go to this course. So it's just the nuances of where that information rests right now and who can register or not. So I would recommend, Regina, that if somebody wants to go to it, they email who the trainer is, which could be another, oftentimes they're teachers in our district who are facilitating those and copying their principal on that email so that the principal can say, yes, I approve. And then the trainer would know if there's space or not. And you can even see on those courses, if they're full, they usually show how many people are registered.
Okay. And maybe that's what we can do there. If, when the ESP desires to attend, they should, contact
Their
the
supervisor
trainer
and
with-
trainer.
include the trainer and the supervisor in writing email. And then, again, I think it's just that fall, to me, at least know at least the day before that they're in or they're not. That's really what we're looking for too. It's kind of oh, I never heard back, or, yeah.
So it's gonna, but if it's the teacher though, who is leading that training, them understanding then that was here for them to have to respond to is my only concern.
Yeah.
Because it's not necessarily something that they're usually managing with
Right.
contract language, so.
Yeah, I'm just thinking that's where the administrator could maybe step in to try to like suss it out. Oh gosh, we're getting down to like the day before. Maybe I can,
Get a response.
maybe that supervisor could help just move it along. Okay. I think we may wordsmith that a little bit, bring it back. All right, and then section 24.17 was just saying that the employee rate for all health and life insurance coverage shall be stated in appendix F, which we had proposed last time. I think we got it all in there. I do know at that time I didn't have the appendix F was in your packet. I didn't have the value PPO rates. And I know in instructional negotiations, we had actually discussed maybe even having another. So for example, we look at the medical rates, right? Coverage level deduction, what it is for the employee with either 20 or 25 deductions, and what that would be for each, the HMO, the high PPO, low PPO value. We had a little discussion about maybe even having double columns there, would be the employee's rate and the board's rate, or percentage, whatever that is. We're open to that, just kind of putting that out there, just to kind of show like, this is what the employee is contributing in the pay period and what is the board contributing. If that's desirable. I just had heard that at one point in our discussion. So that's just a 24.1.7 tied with the appendix.
And we've been talking a lot about this, because this would be definitely a new way of work for us. And so one of the questions that we have is like, if I'm looking at what would be proposed page 97, the insurance rates there. So it says 26.27, and Tracy, feel free to speak up as we work through this. But we know that the insurance rates don't always match the year of the contract, right? And or the school year, that's easier sometimes for people. It's calendar year
Yeah,
versus
so
the school
we could
year.
frame that, like just 2027. We would always be ahead is the point, right? Like, because I think that's always our challenge, right? In bargaining that, and because, I mean, legally speaking, in accordance with collective bargaining, these are mandatory subject to bargaining. So we understand that. So like if we had this here now for January 2027, we'd get through 2027. And then when we get into bargaining for 27, 28, around that time, if we expect changes, that's when, hey, now we're looking ahead. So so they're like in place, I guess is what I'm saying. So it's okay that, what I'm saying is it's okay that we change 26, 27 to say these are the 2027 rates, knowing that they'd already been negotiated for that year, right? And if we're changing them, that's for the future. So that's the goal here. It's to have these.
So if I think of it similar to an MOU, it's been agreed upon and we're publishing it here, as opposed to, we know that there could potentially be changes to it, right? If there was ever a need to do that and to come back to the table and to bring back, I mean, I think we've seen other districts even this past year who have undergone circumstances that cause changes to it. We want to be clear that there would be an understanding that there are some parts of this that are negotiated, and then there are some parts, such as all the other stuff, right? That are rates, and you want to speak to that?
Those rates would be set by the carriers when we go out and do an RFP. So GAP or any of those things, they were at their will. So we can say, we're not gonna pay more, but if they say they're paying, we're paying. So that's the dangerous part about putting it in a contract. It might imply to folks that we have control over what the long-term disability rates are.
And those, because those are all voluntary. I
Correct.
think anything, I agree and I understand anything voluntary is, you know, fine, but I think, you know, at least the medical, dental, and vision are kind of those critical for,
Dental and vision are also voluntary.
so. But again, I mean, any impact to benefits that would impact an employee's paycheck, I mean, you could even say that the health insurance is voluntary, but it's still subject to bargaining.
Well, I would say the difference is that the employees contribute, or excuse me, the employer contributes on the health insurance, but we don't contribute on any of the others.
Understood. Yeah, but, so then for medical rates. Any response?
And I think that's what you're looking for, is for medical rates to show this is what was approved for this upcoming year for 26, 27, or actually.
Yeah.
27, 20.
Yeah.
27,
so-
27.
yeah, For 2027 calendar year. I think, yes, but having it in the contract means, because it should be negotiated, right? Like that's the bottom line. Just because the board approves it, that's an impact to employees. It's an impact to their benefits, right? And collective bargaining, mandatory subjects of bargaining are wages, hours, terms and conditions of employment. So this impacts their pay, right? This is, they have a paycheck and there's money going out. So that is why, you know, we're part of the committee, there's, you know, all of that, but at the end of the day, when it impacts an employee's paycheck, it has to be bargained. And that is what the language says about the committee anyway. But again, bringing it to the forefront of when those changes are made, whether there is a change or not a change, if there is a column here that shows, okay, the employee part is staying, the board part is changing, that's then part of the compensation agreement as a whole, which I think is what we discussed with instructional, so that it's no longer these separate cases, because these should be ratified by employees, right? They should have a say in that. Okay, if my rates are going to go up, then I understand why we would need more in salary, or the rates aren't going to go up because the board's contributing more, then I understand why, you know, a certain supplement is not increasing or reducing, so.
And they'd be able to see that change from year to year that shows those different
Yeah, and
contribution
not just the
levels.
change, but that it is it's subject to negotiations. Because it's a benefit, right? The benefit that's provided that impacts that employee directly and their paycheck.
Let us bring that back then, because I think
Mhm.
what you've explained in terms of wanting to show both the employee contribution as well as the board's contribution to that. And then we can talk through some of those voluntary, like, how would we make that very clear? Because I think to your point, then that may create a perception around those that is actually different than what we do with medical. Yeah. All right,
Yeah,
we'll talk through that. Okay.
Right, moving on to 24.5, insurance committee. I think we had made these proposals as well with the instructional unit in 24.5.1. Deciding a sentence there that each of the paraprofessional and clerical bargaining units shall be granted one representative each on the committee. So that's a little different than the instructional. And then just clarifying that the insurance committee will serve in an advisory capacity to review and analyze the health insurance plan, and the rest of the language remaining the same. A new section 24.3, that there's no unilateral authority of the committees to implement change. The final decision remains subject to school board approval and collective bargaining where applicable. And then lastly, 24.5.4, the insurance committee shall meet no less than monthly, which we already do, to review all relevant information. All of this stuff.
So looking at 24.5.1,
Mhm.
which would be adding the representative from both paraprofessional and clerical. And just for our understanding too, because we say that the committee is serving in that advisory capacity, and we talked about, the committee really works to look at the data, look at our claims, look at what other avenues we might have in order to address what we see as the needs of our employees as it relates to their healthcare. Those two individuals then would be serving as part of that advisory process and that consensus building around those things, because they could just be there to listen, observe, educate in those things, but we just want to understand a little bit more that is the intent really about them serving that capacity of advisory.
Correct, yeah, because we know that, there are different, even though, HCTA serves as, the bargaining agent, but it's the bargaining agent for each unit. So just as HSEF is a unit, they have their rep, the instructional unit should have a rep, the clerical and the paraprofessional to have a representative.
Okay.
So all the employee groups are represented individually, just like retirees are represented as a group, administrators and so forth.
They've always been.
I think it's just, I think it's
They've always
just
been.
clarifying that then, when it comes down to, because we know the insurance committee also serves votes for RFP, right? So, and let's just talk that out, that the intent would be that you'd actually have an instructional, a clerical, and a paraprofessional representative as part of a voting
An
position.
RFP. So I do think we should distinguish, because when we're having RFP committees, they're not necessarily an insurance committee, because there might be other people added or not.
Mhm.
So, and I don't know that we're in a position, maybe we are, to dictate who should be on people's RFPs. So I would just, so, but I think the more the merrier on the committee.
Yeah, I think also where we're trying to go here is that anything that is, again, impacting employees where they have a voice or a vote in it, that group should be probably, that's all we're getting at. And we're not saying that anybody's like saying no, it's just we want to be clear. That it is.
This month.
Tracy said more the merrier, that's
All
what I heard. All right, so in terms of 24.5.1, then you would tentatively agree to put the, yeah, we
got
agree.
one, got one.
We got one. Well, the paraprofessional and clerical bargaining unit granted one representative on the committee. And then 24.5.2, that yes, we would agree to that the insurance committee will serve in an advisory capacity. 24.5.3, that one we want to hold on just because, are there any words in there that legally create any challenges for us? And then 24.5.4, I know that there was similar language to propose around the instructional, and the conversation we had there was about, is saying monthly too restrictive at this time when we're still in kind of the infancy of this in terms of, we are meeting monthly, and sometimes we were meeting more frequently than that based off the needs.
But we didn't meet in November.
But we didn't meet in
So that would
November.
be an example of how we did
Sure.
not follow the contract, but it was because the committee decided based on the timing when we would do.
Right, and those breaks around vacations and so forth, so
Yeah,
you want to say regularly,
Well,
quarterly,
yeah.
something to get us started.
We're kind of even thinking, I think, so when I went to go visit St. John's, for example, they don't meet in summer. So, no, right? It's shocking. So I think I was there in May, was it 2021? I don't even remember now, but I think that was their last meeting until they got back into the school year. So, even if it's like a minimum of 8 times, I don't, something that's like, we know we likely will not meet any less than X amount of times in a year, but more is fine and good. And so, again, I'm not so worried about that. I think it's just that the committee shall meet consistently. That is the goal, right? And to be clear that this is what the meetings are about, to review financial utilization, plan performance. We tried to kind of not make that list too specific, but to also be clear that that is really what this committee needs to do under a self-insured plan.
So I think if we just, for right now, said regularly, meets regularly or consistently, without having that time specific.
All right, so we'll wait for you to come back on any wordsmithing for 24.5.3 and then we'll work on that shall meeting consistently or regularly or sufficiently or some good word. You guys will come back on 24.5.3 and we'll come back on 24.5. Good.
Yes.
We got 2 TAs. And then maybe all the MOUs, I can't remember if we did that last time, but the MOU section is just, you can see just striking the old ones and then adding the latest and greatest. And then, of course, there was a placeholder for the form that we talked about today. So if the MOUs look all good, we could technically actually TA them, but.
Yeah, so
we need
there's
more time
the,
to look at 'em.
no, the designated schools of need, 26, 27. And then the transformation network for 26, 27. We TA both of those. That's the 2.
Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna TA the striking of the old ones, right?
Okay.
And then we'll TA the addition. Then we got more TAs.
Making progress on this Friday afternoon.
Yeah. Just makes it feel like, we actually got something done. Although, I mean, even when I just want to say why I'm doing this, even when we don't reach an agreement at this time, discussion is important. It helps clarify, it gives meaning to the language. I was reviewing over the last couple of days and kind of looking at the history of HCTA that, the instructional contract itself is over 55 years old. So you've got many generations and decades of folks working on that contract. And as we're looking today, we know what this meant. So, discussion is important, even if we're not quite there yet. Let's start.
Thank you. Peace out.
I'm gonna sneak you in there.
Yeah.
All right. All my stack of paper together. All right. So we got a little bit of homework there. We have about an hour, so perfect timing to get a compensation proposal to you all. All right. So this is the economic agreement and also includes, there's a section in the contract for the instructional, instructional support one-time payments. So there's some stuff there too. I'll pick up a copy of it. We didn't from ourselves. And I know it's in red, but that's the way it printed. It's usually blue for additions, not that it's,
Not taking away all.
yeah. Although, yes. All right, so I guess we'll start with, we'll just start with the economic agreement. It's all money related. We know there's some other money things that we propose, but, all right, so this agreement is made on the 7th day of August, 2026 by and between Hillsborough County Public Schools, HCPS District, and the Hillsborough Classroom Teachers Association, HCTA, the union, representing both educational support professional bargaining units, ESPs, here in collectively referred to as the parties. The parties mutually agree to the following. One, effective July 1, 2026, the education support professional salary schedule agreed upon shall increase by 2% and shall be updated and included in Appendix C of the ESP collective bargaining agreement. Number two, effective July 1, 2026, eligible employees in the ESP bargaining unit shall advance one level. We believe that's approximately 2%, depending on where you are, on their respective pay grade on the education support professional salary schedule. Eligible employees must have worked half a year plus a day and have an effective evaluation for the 25-26 school year. Number three, effective July 1, 2026, eligible ESP employees at the top of their respective pay grade, which is level 24, who do not receive a level increase shall receive an FRS eligible one-time top level payment of $2,500. Eligible employees must have worked half a year plus a day and have an effective evaluation for 26-27 school year. Number four, ESD instructional paraprofessionals, paraprofessional employees shall receive an additional one-time ESE critical shortage supplement of $2,000 to be paid at the conclusion of the 26-27 school year. This payment is a supplement to employee-based pay. Eligible employees must be current active employees at the time of payment. We have a list of job titles there, the job codes. And then number five, effective July 1, 2026, the following positions shall be regraded. So we listed a number of positions there. I know it's a very overwhelming and long list, so let me just say a couple of things. We know over the last couple of contracts, we've done work to regrade groups of employees. These are the remaining positions that we've identified that have not yet been regraded. I highlighted ones, kind of hard to see. The highlighted ones are, actually, when we looked at it, there were no employees in those positions. A lot of these positions have like one or two people in them. This list represents about 982 employees total. I think some of the largest numbers would be our bilingual Spanish paraprofessionals. That's a very large group of employees, 274. And then the assistant teachers at the bachelor degree level, there's over 100 there. And then there's a few with maybe, 45, 50, but really a lot of these positions are 3, 2, 1, 1, 1. At least based on just, again, approximate count. So that number of 982 employees is approximate as of, I know we're still hiring people. So that's number five. And then number six, the board agrees to pay the full cost of an employee health only insurance premium for a designated health plan offered by the board for instructional employees in accordance with 24.1.1. And number seven, the board will pay the cost of fingerprint monitoring for instructional unit. This should be instructional support. I think I copied both of those, sorry. In accordance with 24.6.1. So I actually might need to check those contracts. And then attached is the proposed salary schedule. This would be implementing the 2% increase to the salary schedule. And then on the back of that, just for illustration purposes, would show, we get to split it this way, would just show if an employee was moving from, let's say if they're on pay grade 17, moving from step 1 to step 2, their hourly increase would be 55.83 cents. And then on the bottom, it's just approximate percentage. So that the back page kind of shows that once they got onto that step, that's what they realized.
Walk me through that one more time. You
Okay.
used that example.
Sorry. So if I'm an employee right now on pay grade 17, I know it's hard to read. And I'm making, well, I don't know.
Okay.
I have the
Right.
original. If I'm moving to step 2, so I place myself wherever I'm landing. So with the 2% and with the step increase, if I'm moving to step 2, my base pay increase would be $55.83. On the one below, would show that that's a 3.5% increase if I'm moving from grade 17 to step 2. So that's just for illustration. Again. And so, and we know our great folks that audit these and make sure they're all correct, but this is our proposal with the 2%.
Just for clarity,
Yep.
on number 5,
Mhm.
where all the positions, so
Mhm.
those are all from what you've looked at, positions that have not previously been regraded over the last maybe
Yeah,
4 years?
that's what when we
Okay.
did our research, we believe these are the ones that are remaining. I know in the past, we did last year, I think we were trying to work on our, assistant teachers and the bookkeepers. But then, we kind of started looking at it, and there's like 2 or 3 people or 1 person. So we thought, let's get them all in there too. But these
And
are
then
the
the
positions, the highlighted ones are the
ones.
ones that I just identified, at least as of when we, like, in July, there was no one in there. So just the point is that there may be, if there's a vacant position in any of those, maybe there'd be 1 person. I think like the clinical registered nurse AA, I don't think there's been anyone in that position that's a position that's in the unit, but I don't think it's been filled for several years now. So anyway, that's why I highlighted them, just to show that. Yeah.
Yeah, just, looking at the very
Did I
last one,
mess that
SNS
up?
systems technician.
Oh,
That
yeah,
might just be
that
a
was supposed to be
typo,
27,
26 to 27, okay.
I put that on my,
Well, it's above, see, it's listed twice.
Oh,
It's
is it?
above clinic
aha,
registered nurse.
okay, so there you go, thank you.
So
Okay.
just strike
I
that
did
top.
fix it, I
Okay.
forgot to delete it on the bottom, that's
Yeah,
what it
There you
was.
go, okay.
Okay, thank you for catching that. No, that's okay, so I did, I just forgot to delete it. Okay. So that's our intent there. Before I go into the supplement, I did a little bit of projecting on this. I'll be honest, it's very approximate. We estimate the 2% increase to just the scale itself at 2,596,900. So 2,596,900, the 2%. The step, we estimated at 2,337,210. The longevity, that is, when we counted about 99 employees, so we came up with $301,034 for longevity. The ESE supplement at 2,000 would impact 1,473 employees. That's 3,583,219.
Repeat that.
Yeah, ESE, 3,583,219 for 1,473 employees. You guys can check my math. And then the regrade, for all those employees, again, the regrade, we project at about 982 employees to cost 1,500,469. 1,500,469. We also know that, when we were meeting in the instructional, you all provided the board's, contribution to the increase in health insurance. So we also included in this the insurance for the clerical and the paraprofessional unit at $7,203,000. So we included that in the total package because that is again, that's an employee benefit. It's not impacting their paycheck. So just the economic proposal alone, we estimate at $17,521,834.
Can you repeat that number?
Yep. 17,521,834. Sorry, I don't have my fancy sheet.
No, that's okay, you're good.
And again, these are all very approximate. It didn't go line by line. It was just kind of looking at general percentages and things like that. So forgive me if it's off, but I don't think it's very off. So those were the things that I could cost out. The other page is, it's in the contract. This is the supplemental one-time support. Instructional support one-time payments. So we would upgrade or update 2025 and 26 to 26 and 27. It's hard to see because it all came out red, but that's the goal there. Our proposal for the data processor supplement is to increase that to 3.5% from 2%. So that's a 1.5% increase. For the highly qualified parapro, same thing, increasing that from 2% to 3.5%. It's a 1.5% increase. We are also proposing a supplement that's similar or the same basically to the highly qualified parapro, to call it HCPS, highly effective and tenured para 1 at 3.5% of salary. There's a little asterisk there, so that correlates to the top explanation there. So the asterisk 1 says for this particular piece, to qualify for the highly effective and tenured para 1, the para 1 must have 4 consecutive years of service with highly effective evaluations. An employee shall receive payment equal to 3.5% of their salary, with 1.75 paid in December and 1.75 paid in May. I believe that's how the highly qualified parapro is paid as well. If I understand that correctly, so we're trying to mirror that. But to allow the parapro with those 4 years of consecutive highly effective evaluations to receive that. The next supplement we're proposing is the bilingual interpretation and translation services at $250 a semester. So 2 asterisks will bring you to the explanation of, to be eligible for the interpretation and translation services supplement, the following must apply: that there is no bilingual aid at this work site. The employee is utilized to translate or interpret for any other employee or administrator at the work site during the semester. The next proposal we have here is for the professional learning stipend. Right now, ESPs are paid $9 an hour. So our proposal is to increase that to $16. And then you follow the 3 asterisks to a little explanation that says in-person, evening, weekend, and or summer courses that participates will receive this additional stipend per hour for attending training outside of contract hours. So that's specific for that. If it's during their work time, they're not getting that right now. So just to be specific on that. And then the last one there is the micro credential completion for $250, and then follow the asterisk. The NEA micro credential is a competency-based recognition that allows an ESP to demonstrate mastery in a particular area of inquiry. Micro credentials can be used for compensation and in-service hours towards instructional positions. Any ESP employee who completes an approved NEA micro-credential shall receive $250 annually per micro-credential. An employee must submit proper certificate and completion to receive the supplement. We are also proposing advanced degree supplements for the ESPs. So corresponding there, an Associate of Arts or Associate of Science at $500, a Bachelor of Arts or Bachelor of Science at $750, and then master's degree of $1,000, specialist degree of $2,000, doctorate degree of $3,000. And then effective July 1, 2026, ESP employees will be eligible for the advanced degree supplement regardless of employment area. To be eligible for the advanced degree supplement, official transcripts must be on file in the Division of Human Resources. This supplemental pay will be retroactive to the beginning of the fiscal year. The transcripts have been received or to the date the degree was awarded, whichever is later. And then one last proposal there on the next page is an industry certification reimbursement for nurses. The board shall reimburse nurses in the paraprofessional bargaining unit for the cost of required industry certifications, licensure, and examination fees necessary to teach or maintain program eligibility. This is specific to nurses. Reimbursements shall include initial certification costs, renewal or recertification fees, required continuing education or testing associated with maintaining industry certification, and reimbursement shall be provided within a reasonable and defined timeline not to exceed 30 work days following submission of appropriate documentation. I don't have a projected cost on any of these at this time.
Well, we will cost it out.
I will appreciate that. It's
All right.
hard for things like advanced degrees.
Yeah, how would you?
And we know that how that dealt with the instructional, and open to counters on any of them. You know, we especially when it comes to the professional learning, we know over the last, this is, I think, going on year 4, really been trying to make efforts to honor what our paraprofessionals, clerical staff are doing to, you know, further their professional learning. And our NEA micro credentials are used nationwide, and there's a lot of different areas to look at. I think in the last year, we've also, I think it was last year, maybe the year prior, we did provide examples of language in other states and other areas that are honoring this. So if you need that again, I'm sure we can dig it up. So there you go. There's our compensation proposal.
All right, well, we will take that back. We want, let's see, what time is it? It's 2:20. I know we're getting started with teachers at 3.
Yeah.
Do we want to caucus and then back? At least we can talk about some next steps too
Yeah.
as well.
Well, and we might be able to finagle some of the little language pieces that we're working on and maybe have something there. To see what we can do.
All right, can you give us until, let's plan for 2:45?
Yep.
We can get up here sooner.
So I'll just say, we didn't have much time. We didn't have time to really we didn't really have time to kind of wordsmith the things we're gonna wordsmith, and I understand that you all need a little more time too, since we're up against the clock for instructional, so.
No, absolutely. And so we want to take back and cross out, obviously, what some of the proposals are, particularly the appendix piece. I'm just going to call it that, all the supplements and all those things in there.
Yeah, that'd be helpful.
And we have our next session already set for August the 19th, correct?
Let me double check. I know we've got 19th and 20th, but I
I think
remember which one's which.
ESP was going to be.
Okay, instructional on the
Okay.
19th.
Yep,
Okay, thank you, Sherry. And that's at 1 o'clock,
at 1 o'clock.
right?
Yes, 1 o'clock.
August 20th. All right.
All right.
We'll see you back in a moment for instructional.
All right, thank you.
All right. Welcome back for our Friday, August 6th, 7th meeting. This is meeting 6 for the instructional unit. And just as a reminder, we are broadcasting by Zoom for members of you, and we don't include caucus or sidebar. Today, we're going to cover some language review with some counters. And then I know there were some things that we had proposed last time. If the board has any response to some of those ones that we were going to hold on. So this stack is coming to you. It's collated, so it's got. So take a pack for yourself to pass on. Not one. There's an agenda, a packet of language, and then an MOU. So Sherry collated this book. I'm gonna go grab an agenda book. Thank you. All right. Too big of a binder, okay. So today, so I know that we have, HCTA, the instructional unit has passed quite a bit of language. Probably pages or so. And we did quite a bit of work to get those across the table, and you all came back with, responses to, I think, all of it. Which gave us a lot of homework, but then we kind of we had to take a little bit of a side path to address SIA, and we have that MOU agreement. So the intent today for HCTA is to try to get a little bit back into the language. We don't have a lot of time this afternoon to, do another marathon 9-hour session. So our focus today will be on 2 of the contract. And so we passed you over a packet with some of those counters in language, and we'll just get started on that. Okay.
And Britt,
Yep.
do you remember, because I know we had the first 2 sessions, we did a little bit of language at one, and then you all came back with a lot of language at the next.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know if you made updates with a lot of that from that second meeting based off of what we responded to? I'm just trying to organize myself to where you are.
Yeah.
Okay,
I think
see
it's
it.
the last language session that we met, and you guys gave us a lot. There was a lot of response, a lot of discussion about, hey, no on this, but
Yeah.
maybe there's some things we could consider.
Okay.
So this is to try to bring back the section based on that discussion. A few things kind of wordsmith and worked on, And I think it's removing the items that were no, so they're not in here. And, you know, I only got through sections.
That's okay.
Section 3 is a very intense section as well. If we have time, we could maybe just go page by page on what we talked about in the past and maybe work on it, but let's just see how we do, because there's also an MOU included. And then there were some contractual pieces that I know you all wanted to hold on. If you're prepared to have any response, that's fine. If not, we know we have a date of August 19th, right?
Correct.
So we can just actually write that down now. August 19th at 1:00 PM will be the continuation, which we'll have more time to dedicate to this. And we know we also need to get back to compensation, but we also have time. So just trying to move through that. So, I will start with that. Okay. All right, so starting with page 6, we just have the dates at the top there, updating the terms of this contract. And then I believe on 1.2.1, I just wanted to come back to this one because this is in section 1, so I lied that we're in section 2, but section 1. We had proposed striking vocational teachers and changing it to secondary, post-secondary career and technical education. And I think the board's response on that was they weren't sure and they needed a look at that. And I just wanted to revisit that
Yes,
particular piece.
we
if that
have
was
been
okay or
talking
not.
through it, so will you just hold on it?
Yes.
We don't think that there is an issue with it.
Okay. Okay, that's fine.
I know we had also talked about, I think, related to park, if there was anything that you bring that up, as maybe a concern
Yeah, okay.
around the classifications. I think that's just something we need, and we can talk about that
Yeah. Let me
in
look
one
back
of our
at
labor management meetings to see if there's anything we need to do to solidify that.
Yeah, and I think we were good with the last part there where it's, you know, caseworkers, diagnosticians, psychologists, ROTC instructors, instructional coaches, therapists, specialists, and mentors, here referred to as teachers and or instructional personnel. And then there was just a slight update to the supremacy clause rather than faculty saying, I think you wanted to talk about calling those employee handbooks. I don't know if they're called faculty anymore. I think that was
Correct.
based on our discussion.
Yes, now it's
And-
an employee handbook.
Yeah, and then just correcting instead of Article 25, it's Article 27. I think those are okay.
Yes, 1.3.1.
Okay,
Yes.
so I'll just, okay. Moving along then. All right, section 2. So we TA'd 2.1.1. I know 2.1, I tried to make notes here, 2.1.2 we TA'd, so we don't have to do anything with that. School board said no to 2.1.3.
Correct.
And that was the whole section, right? Not just instructional personnel, but also our piece there about at or any time, or at or away.
Yes, and that was concerned, the notes that I had here had to do because of, that non-classroom teachers don't have classroom duties.
Right,
And
okay.
it was saying this day is specifically set aside to enable teachers to work on classroom duties.
Mhm. Okay,
And so, yes, we had said no to that.
okay, got it, okay. And then on 2.1.5, there was a yes to the first sentence and then some issues with travel and location to work on it. So, and this was in that second piece. So I tried to do some work here to kind of work on it, I believe. So the school board shall utilize centrally located training sites when feasible. When a central location cannot be secured for employees who would have to travel, have a travel time exceeding 40 minutes from the employee's assigned work location, the board shall make great effort to provide training options virtually or in locations that reduce travel burden or instructional personnel. I think it was a little too restrictive before, so we came with just a little update there. That great effort would be made to have some options there, just to, rather than limiting it to, it's gotta be east or west or in a specific location, and try to give a little more flexibility, because that was what we had in the notes, was it could be a little more flexible. So that's our counter there on 2.1.5.
We'll review that.
Okay.
And let me just, and I mean this very seriously, right? Because that's probably gonna come across as trying to be funny. I don't intend it that
Okay.
way. But traffic in Tampa,
Mhm.
40 minutes on a
Sure.
Monday with no school, it's very different than
Sure.
a Monday with school. Like next Monday, we're all gonna experience probably our worst nightmare.
Right, and I
Going to work, so.
Yeah, and I think this is specific to professional study day. This is
Okay.
under 2.1.5. It already says, and I think
I see.
we were good with instructional personnel shall be afforded professional discretion regarding the use of professional study day. Each instructional personnel shall have the option to select from in-service meetings within their present area of assignment. So this is in relation to that, utilizing centrally located training sites when feasible, and when that central location cannot be secured. And our proposal is traveling more than 40 minutes, but
Okay. Right.
we can look at
No,
counters,
we'll
but we
take
tried
that
to kind of make that a little more flexible, if you will. Because we get it, like cost can be part of that too, if there's because I know over the years, HCPS has used outside locations that are not school board property, if you will.
Yeah, and the concern comes down really to not having to put us into a situation where we have to have multiple offerings for the same training, because it does become now getting trainers and so
Yeah.
forth, and the facility usage on that. But we understand that the travel time can be, if I work at Morgan High School and I go to Simon High School for a training, it's quite a distance. So,
Right.
but I appreciate the part about the great effort, because I think that does give our folks that are scheduling these some guidance just around trying to make them more complex.
Yeah, and that's why we threw in the virtually too, that, I mean, if there's a way that, let's say a session or something at that site is, if there's a virtual, could it be broadcast virtually for that person to be able to maybe go to their work site and get it, if it can be done, they can get to that site, or even, another option for something else. So that, we're trying to just get some more flexibility in there on that piece. I think we both share the intent and recognize what the concern is. It's just how do we reasonably accomplish that? 2.1.6, we also had the last time we heard that it's a little too restrictive. So the change here is, rather than just restricting this to school social workers, that all student services personnel shall be provided specializing service training on any designated professional study day. And then what we are proposing here is that during the term of this agreement, which we just had proposed would be 26 to 29, the school board and the association shall collaborate to explore ways to implement specialized training for instructional personnel working at ESE centers and access point staff on any designated professional study day. So originally our proposal was that access points and ESE centers, along with all student services, had specialized service training. And what I believe was talked about last time, that this is a shared goal. It's just not quite worked out yet. So we wanted to use the term of this contract to explore those ways and hopefully implement them, right? Like, not that we're restricted in contract that it has to be done by, this school year, because those things still could be in the work, but it is still a goal to be able to provide those specialized training for those specific areas. So that's our counter there.
Okay.
Yeah,
We'll
'cause I
review
think,
that one.
I think the notes had to do with that, if it's too specific of an assignment, that can be restrictive, but I do think there's great need for our ESE centers and access point staff to have something specific to them.
We'll review that.
Yeah, okay, and then 2.1.8 was already agreed to. 2.1.9, I believe. I don't have any notes on that. I think that one is agreed to. This is the board shall establish early release dates. Okay. I think it's work on this one. The board shall establish early release dates for the purpose of providing additional planning time for instructional personnel. I believe that's is the intent of early release for additional planning. Early release dates shall be designated as instructional work and planning time. I think the language already says designated teacher work time. The scheduling of early release dates may be changed upon consultation agreement between the school board, Hillsborough County, or their designee, and Hillsborough Classroom Teachers Association. If specials and or duty-free lunch that's all the same there. I think when there was some discussion about the first part about being really clear about the planning for instructional personnel, work and planning time. And some concerns like about if changing that language would kind of lead into like an expectation of comp time or something on early release because of the days that we have already designated, the time that we've already designated that we use for PLCs. And I think it's already addressed in the rest of the language because it says no more than 1 hour per month may be used for PLCs or other data gathering planning intended to increase student achievement on an early release, this is new language now, on an early release day and shall not be subject to comp time for lost planning time. So I was trying to be specific there that 1 hour per designated to use is not a loss of planning time, because that's a concern I heard. Such time shall be scheduled immediately following student dismissal or as close as practicable to when student dismissal is, I think what I was trying to do here was you expressed it was too restrictive. It was immediately following the day. So what I was trying to do here is as close as practical when student dismissal is delayed or an unforeseen emergency arises. On the designated early release day to preserve uninterrupted teacher work time. So that was the goal there. There was a little bit of a change in what we proposed last time. I think that word two should not be in there. Practicable when student dismissal is delayed or unforeseen emergency. And then there was some language that I think was too restrictive in the last sentence. You know, it does talk about a different activity may be scheduled during that time with the 2/3. I think that's the SIP waiver. And then the language already says activities should be intended to increase student achievement. We were proposing that it shall be. But then what our change here is that if the activities are not intended to increase student achievement, the rationale for the activity shall be clearly communicated to all faculty. So we were trying to really hone in that this is really should be intended. It should be, then we think it shall be. We think it should be shall. But if it's really not, if there are things, then can we just let everybody know what the intent is? And then we do still have this piece in here about once per quarter. I think we backed that off. We said once a month, or maybe once per quarter during this PLC time, the board will provide a virtual PLC option for all ESE centers and access points to staff to collaborate. Just trying to give them an opportunity to also have some shared PLC time across, but specific to their assignment. 2.1.10. We had this last time, and I've got some information for you on this. This is 1.10 is personnel will have the option to work remotely on any non-student teacher workday on mutual agreement with their administrator. So we added that little piece in there that there would be agreement with the administrator. Request shall not be unreasonably denied. The administrator must provide the reason for any denial in writing. So we heard that some guardrail. So we proposed this. I did bring you some examples. I don't think I made copies for everyone, but I have the language from St. John's and the language from Orange County where they have working remote planning days. St. John's is just very basic, like, you know, it will happen. They did spell out the days it would happen. And then Orange, we went with the Orange model of that they would collaborate, you know, get the approval, and then if the request is denied, that it would just be explained.
Thank you for bringing these, you know, as we said before, we know that this is something that there is a lot of interest around. I think we all know there are probably times where it may be happening. You look shocked.
I am, again,
No, I think at individuals, like, so we just want to take it back and really read through it to make sure that we're not creating any unintended challenges for us. I think I had mentioned previously that if there were a need similar to what existing language is around something that had to be an on-site training, you know, maybe in some of our sites that have some state oversight to them, there could be some requirements on additional training. There could also be some unforeseen circumstance or emergency that arises that would require us to be that time. So I think it's talks about keeping that lens of if there's a required training or need, and glad to see that you have language in there that provides for some of those circumstances that may arise. So we'll bring that back.
Okay. Yeah, and I think, the end of that there, it says, the administrator must provide the reason for any denial in writing, that could be slash email. But we just want to try to show that, how can we tweak it a little bit, that's what we've heard, so. Try to bring a couple examples for you. Okay, so next is section 2.2. 2.2.1, this was all agreed to, so I put up there that PA 2.2. This, I can't remember if I tweet this or not, there was some discussion about, the back and forth of things in writing and all that, or how an employee may request vacation in passing and then having equal kind of like equal duty in that, I guess, or that every effort shall be made to grant employees vacation requests made in writing. Again, that could be an email, you could add that, whenever possible. And then if the vacation is denied by the employee shall be provided with written explanation. So that it's not the he said, she said situation that's what I heard. We were asking that the reason for denial would be provided, but if it's just done in passing, an administrator also says it verbally, how do we track that? So the proposal here is that just both. The employee would, even if they said it, they just said, and then that way you can respond to it to try to encourage documentation on both sides. So again, made in writing / email. Okay. 2.1, this was the emergency holidays and vacation, and I think you guys were gonna maybe find some more out about that. You did, by any chance? If not, that's okay, but we were trying to figure out if emergency holidays are granted, what's an emergency holiday? And then, the time missed must be made up by reduction of time made as vacation. So. If you still need more time, that's okay, 'cause I don't remember if we
I
defined
think
that.
some of it is probably just language that's different than what we actually use now.
Yeah.
So we probably just need to rewrite it based off of the language that we use currently in our calendars, and we have not, I don't know, emergency holidays, emergency closures.
Correct.
I don't think any of us think it's a holiday, You're sitting at home, you're like.
Yeah, that's,
Yeah.
so yeah, emergency, okay, that would make sense, so just changing holiday to closure. And then if the time is missed, they're made up by a reduction of time designated as vacation on the annual calendar.
And maybe that used to be because we would call it like a winter vacation or Christmas vacation. It's hard to know how those calendars used to look.
Yeah.
Just our thought process is,
So do we need to?
now we talk about breaks. So, winter break, yeah, fall break, spring break.
Designated as break on the calendar? I don't know, whatever they're designated are. I know there are times sometimes.
It could be a non-student day, it could be a break, it could be an employee workday, but a non-student day. So we just need to match it with the calendar.
Yeah, and don't we, I mean, we work together on that usually, so maybe actually that part should maybe be updated to say that, the time missed must be made up by a reduction of time, equal to or as designated by the DOE, because that can also be variable. Sometimes the DOE could say, hey, you're good. And then, okay, so I'm gonna work on this, required or DOE, and then that we discuss and land on. So that's usually what happens. And it usually is, what it's gotta be. So, cause we've usually had to use early release Mondays, so those are not vacation days, so.
Yeah,
Okay,
that didn't exist probably back when that language was.
yeah,
Correct.
okay, so I'll come back to this. Or when you guys are thinking for it. But that's, because we do our back to school survey, kind of get the information on what do people prefer. Yeah. Right, page 9. You wanted to find some clarity where we had proposed the board shall grant all instructional personnel 6 paid holidays for school year. The language right now says the board shall grant all teachers working less than 12 months. So we were just gonna say, I mean, I think people working 12 months also get at least 6 paid holidays. So we were just trying to clean it up that, yeah,
So you're on 2.4.1?
2.3.
Oh, I'm sorry, I wrote down it. Okay. Board shall grant all instructional personnel 6 paid holidays each school year. But I think it is important to separate out based out because 12
I
months.
think it's in there. Somewhere, let's find it.
Cause
We can go back
we
and find
agree,
it.
if, yeah, that's what you guys were gonna try to find where it was for the more than 12 month or sorry, more than 12 month, more than 10 months.
I'm still waiting.
Searching for 12,
Sure
try to find it.
Check that too.
I'm just gonna look for the word 13. I don't know, like 130.
Well,
I don't see it here.
Wait, 2.1,
Find it,
that's what Kim's saying.
Kim? It says
yeah,
2.2.
2.2.1.
Go Kim.
Yeah, so 2.2.1 says all 12-month teachers with up to 5 years continuous service will be entitled to 13 days annual vacation. And teachers with 5 to 10 years continuous service shall be eligible. So that's awarding vacation time. That's
Oh, no,
different than the
that's
vacation days. Hold on. Yeah.
Maybe just,
That's
yeah,
different.
working
Okay.
holidays.
Search.
Five results. 1, 2. Huh.
Yeah, I don't think
I
it's.
found it the other-
13.
Maybe it's an ESP one, right? Maybe that's why we just think we.
Yeah, so maybe here then we could still keep it as the board shall grant to all instructional personnel working less than 12 months, 6 paid holidays each school year.
And
And
then
then-
add the other
and then-
language.
Instructional personnel working 12 months shall be granted 13.
Paid holidays
Okay.
each school year.
I mean, that's what they get, right? Steph? I have to go back and look.
Okay, so we'll just,
That's what I wanted.
we'll double check.
I'll
We
look at
think
the
it's
calendar.
13, double check.
99%.
We'll say for 2.3.2 that we would leave it as is, and
Yep.
then we'll bring back language related to the 12-month position.
Yeah, and just maybe keep it all in just that same spot. So it's,
Yeah.
we gotta go look somewhere else for
Correct.
less than 12 months. Okay, 2.3.3 was agreed to. Did you find it?
Well, the PO1 is the. Look on PO1, because that's only 12 months, people are all on that one. Yeah. So, yeah.
All right,
So 2.3.3, we had TA,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
yes, and same with 2.4.1. Because not set by the calendar committee, I believe. So the work day for full-time instructional personnel shall be 8 hours. The normal work day shall be followed during pre-planning, post-planning, teacher work day. And then we changed on district-wide scheduled conference days, because I think it says right now calendar committee. So on district-wide scheduled conference days, the length of the day for 8-hour instructional personnel shall be 6, including. Correct. And 2.4.2 was agreed to. Yes, and then 2.4.3. This had to do with just adding some language. It said secondary instructional personnel schedule, including those in K-8 setting, shall consist of no more than 2 subject areas and 3 or fewer preps, except in unique circumstances. I think our original proposal incorporated K-8 into the we were trying to do 2.4.3 and 2.4.4 that everybody's teaching 300 minutes. But I think it got a little confusing with K-8, so we just, tried to identify them here. A secondary instructional personnel schedule, including those in the K-8 setting, shall consist of no more than 2 subject areas and 3 or fewer preps, except in unique circumstances.
That looks fine in no service. I just want to take it back just to
Okay.
make sure that we don't have any, and I know it says except in unique circumstances, but are there any of our, I don't know, if it's a special type teacher or a elective teacher that could potentially be doing anything unique there? Although I know the unique setting or
Yeah.
unique circumstances would cover that, but
And if there's something regular, we can just add, we know that this is always to be true, then we can add that sentence.
okay.
2.4.5, our original proposal, I actually should probably pull that out. What we originally proposed, but our counter here had to do with, rather than an accounting procedure, a reporting procedure. We still want to try to get to that word.
Mhm.
It's not accounting, a reporting procedure related to instructional personnel reporting for work shall be developed and implemented by the steering committee, working with teachers at each site. Such procedure shall be submitted or implemented by the steering committee. Submitted to the building administrator for approval prior to implementation. So we didn't change anything else, but we did want to try to keep it as a reporting procedure for instructional personnel.
Yes, and I have in my notes that the reporting and the instructional personnel were the parts
Yes.
of the original proposal that we
Yes.
were in agreement on. So
Okay.
yes, we can say that.
Right, 2.4.7. So this one, I think we were good on it. We just got a little concerned if we agreed to it not being clear about the summer. We were proposing this for the technical college instructors, also doing a 300-minute instructional limit. Here, we weren't trying to say that during the school year they could do less than the 5 days a week, but we were trying to be specific. So the counter here is that technical college instructors shall not be subject to the daily 300-minute instructional limits when there is a 4-day work week implemented by the board. When the 4-day work week is implemented, instructional time for technical college instructors may instead be calculated on a weekly basis with total instructional minutes assigned with program requirements, even limited to maximum 1,500 minutes per week, or as otherwise determined by the program design. So we were just trying to be a little more specific, because I think our original proposal, the intent was there, but it was too open to make it sound like we could just do 4-day work week anytime. So,
Okay,
that's the counter there.
there's a second part for that too, right?
Yep, and then the next piece is such assignments shall include adequate time for planning, preparation, and non-instructional duties, and shall not result in excessive workload or continuous instructional assignments without relief.
If you know that last part, continuous instructional assignment without relief, like is that implying relief as in a break?
Just a
relief?
break and lunch, yeah. And if we need to, feel free to counter that with tweaking that if needed.
Can you learn a little bit more about their scheduling?
Yeah, okay. I don't know if John's here today.
He's not.
Okay, that's okay. He's a great wealth of information on that. All right, 2.5, I think was all TA'd. 2.6 was TA'd. 2.7.1. Okay, so this was for planning and lunch periods. I think we had just had instructional personnel. There was discussion about rosters. So the counter here is instructional personnel with rostered students shall have uninterrupted daily planning time during which they will not be responsible for students, attendance at faculty meetings, or assigned to other duties except for emergencies. We had a whole thing about emergencies, but we would like to at least be clear that routine staffing shortages, predictable workload increases, and failures to plan are not emergencies. We know that there was concern about trying to define emergencies, which there is a definition to emergencies, but for some reason we can't figure that out. But can we at least say that those 3 things are not emergencies? And then the rest would remain the same. So that's our counter there for 2.7.1. Any questions?
No,
Okay,
yeah, well,
okay.
well, we're good. Thank you.
Okay. 2.7.2 was TA'd. 2.7.3, this is a hold for research. It was, we just wanted to be specific that teachers in schools with 7 or more student instructional periods shall have a scheduled planning period of no fewer than one full period per day within the student day. So, I think the note I had was that Kelly will check, it was in relation to K-8.
Right.
Yes, and I know too that we have some situations where we've got like a hybrid teacher doing some traditional, some IB, and they're running a block and a traditional schedule, and so there are times where we're kind of see a little bit incorrect, because I haven't seen it on paper to visualize it, but on one day, I may, because I'm doing block and traditional, but the next day is where I may have more planning time than on this day than what I'm entitled to. I know we've got a couple of unique, and that's allowing perhaps an elective teacher or so to serve in both programs, and that needed not to be cut. So between the K-8 and some of that traditional and block scheduling, we may just need to have maybe a caveat of some sort in there. So let me bring that back with those two scheduling models, make sure.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, I'm not on that. I hear what you're saying, and I think you understand, the spirit of what we're going for,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, there can just be another sentence there to kind of describe. what-
Yeah.
what those other unique circumstances may be.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, all right, 2.7.4. I think the note we got on that was a little too broad, so planning, the counter here is planning for instructional personnel working on teams shall normally be scheduled to accommodate team planning. Planning for instructional personnel who work at multiple sites working on teams shall normally be scheduled to accommodate team planning when possible. I think our original proposal was just for everyone, and your concern was about multiple sites. So we tried to address that. Those that do work at multiple sites who work on teams shall normally be scheduled as well, but when it's possible. Like, 'cause I think that was what I heard, that there was maybe a concern that might not work with multiple sites, but it is the goal to have that. So that was our counter there, to try to wordsmith it a bit.
Okay, no,
Okay.
appreciate that.
Yeah.
We'll take it back.
Okay, 2.7.5. I think we TA'd that. The note is on the next page. I think that's good.
Two point 7.5 that we see.
Maybe he was a only part of that. Okay, so. You have that?
I think this one is a lot longer than the last. And I didn't write down that I see it.
Yeah, I don't know how I did either.
Okay.
All right, so. the Language already says elementary teachers K-5 shall be provided with a weekly minimum of 2.5 hours of planning within the student day, equivalent to 30 consecutive uninterrupted minutes. Elementary teachers' planning time shall additionally take place before or after the student day, during the day when students are with specialist teachers, or in the case of kindergarten teachers, when an aide is present. Elementary specialists shall be scheduled in
You're right.
Yeah. Three times, most of the numbers don't line up.
That's why it was eight.
All right, so we'll come back. We will come back to page 11, whatever's on that page.
Perfect.
Sorry.
Just getting tired.
Okay, so yeah. Quite a bit. All right, so we'll come back to the rest of. All right. Look at this, some of this. All right, so we'll just go to page 12, 2.8. Point 2. Instructional personnel schedules / assignments, I think that was a recommendation, shall be made without regard to race, ethnicity, color, national origin, gender identity, religion, marital status, sexual orientation, disability, or membership in any teacher organization. Qualifications and experience levels of instructional personnel will be given consideration in terms of school, schedule, program, or grade level assignment. No more than 4 consecutive classes shall be assigned to special teachers. And
Okay.
I think the note that you were good with the first part, but yeah, it was just assignments.
Yeah,
We wanted scheduled and assignment.
and I think initially it had proposed changing from 4 to 2.
Yes,
consecutive
you
hours.
guys were not, yeah, so you were not doable in
Okay.
that, so we just kind of cleaned that counter up.
Okay, no, that looks good.
2.8.3, I believe there was an original part, there was some money, but we are trying to still include the part at the bottom. This has to do with 3 workdays notice before a change is made to the school's class or bell schedule, except in emergency cases. And then change to those accommodation, right? Free lunch and guaranteed planning. And that's about any exception shall be submitted to the appropriate regional superintendent, but we also want to include the chief of student services and federal programs impacting student services personnel. And I think you all wanted to just check to see if that was the appropriate route with those folks for approval on who shall, and then notify the association.
Yes, so really what you're wanting is just the additional notification there.
For the
to
student
those
services folks,
two.
yeah.
Okay,
Mhm.
right, we'll come back to you.
Okay, 2.8.4. This had to do with floating teachers. I think there were some notes on, wanting to be flexible and, when possible. So this talks about when it becomes necessary to utilize floating teachers, and then there's all the guidelines that they shall have the access to the same teaching resources and materials. Floating teachers shall be provided with a cart containing lockable storage. And here, floating teachers shall, striking to the extent possible, so teachers shall have their classes scheduled on the same floor in our geographic area. And then we wanted to say, when this is not possible, the teacher shall be provided with a reason in writing or email. So again, just having that open communication that if there is a reason why we can't keep it on the same floor, that's fine, but let's just be open about what that reason is. And then same with D, rather than just saying whenever possible, but to say no teacher shall be required to float in consecutive school years. When this is not possible, the teacher shall be provided the reason in writing or email. All right, 2.9. Some notes here. There was, I think, a hold on
Yeah.
2.9, one where we were proposing some things here, and I know Anita couldn't be here, but I wanted to read some notes that she sent for 2.9.3, where we had proposed towards critical shortage student services personnel shall offer you for 11-month contract at their hourly rate. She was saying that, this summer the district contracted with Presence Learning to complete evaluations rather than offering extended year contract to current staff. So that's why it's like, why can't we just do that? 2.9.4, where it's talking about in the case of student service vacancies, including our school psychologists, there's a real urge to make sure that we're very clear that school psychologists are included in this. We believe that the language is clear that any student services, but it's not being uniformly applied. So that's why we also are adding this provision shall be uniformly applied to regardless of student services role. The priority for these key payroll opportunities shall be provided to student service employees prior to hiring contracted providers. For the additional time a student service employee must use to provide services, key payroll shall be provided. So the notes here, what Anita is reporting, and this was just this week. As of this time, this has not ever been offered to school psychologists, although other student services staff have been offered this. Meetings were held, at the end of the school year to work on this plan, and as of today, there is still no plan in place for the 26 schools that have no school psychologists assigned. So this is why we're really trying to just be really clear that we've negotiated this language. I believe our intent has always been clear that the school psychologists should have this, but for some reason it's not been, and so we just want to really hammer that home. So
Looking to ensure that there's that T payroll opportunity for the school psychologist
Yes.
along with all the other student services.
yeah, and
Exactly.
and then especially, yeah, like going to contract outside when you've got folks who are, hey, book me for a little bit longer. So yeah, just some more context for you. I know you were holding on this piece, but just want to give you some more notes on 2.9.1, 3, 4. Okay, 2.10.1. I think this may have been, maybe this was a no, I can't remember. In arranging schedules for personnel who are assigned to more than one school, instead of saying an effort shall be made, that was striking. So those who are assigned at more than one school, the amount of interschool travel shall be limited and when required, shall be reimbursed at the current mileage rate. So I had a note about Florida rate, but I don't remember what.
I think,
the note was
yeah,
there.
the conversation was just around what is our rate compared to what the federal rate is and where does that come from? So, so, all right, so on this new language then, that's actually the same.
Yeah,
So just circling back to that. Okay.
yeah. Because I don't think we had I don't think there was like, that's all I could see in the notes anyway.
Yeah,
So,
okay.
all right, and then 2.10.2, okay. And this is instructional personnel rather than teachers with multi-school assignments shall be assigned. Oh, this had to do with like really trying to get into the tent, what we're trying to do here for those with multi-school assignments. They shall be assigned extra duties as would be appropriate to any other faculty member on a prorated basis. And then we were adding based on their full-time equivalency across all work sites. Then I tried to clean up, based on what we talked about, the rest of that section that we had proposed. The total work time obligation of an employee with multi-school assignments shall not exceed that of a single site teacher. Required participation in school-wide events, meetings, performances, or other activities outside the regular workday shall be limited to the employee's proportional work assignment and shall not result in duplicate obligations because of assignments to multiple work sites. Such employees shall not be required to attend school-wide events or activities at a work site other than their home hiring site unless mutually agreed to upon the employee and the administration. Nothing in this provision shall prohibit an employee from voluntarily participating in additional school-wide events or activities at one or more assigned work sites. Voluntary participation shall not establish an expectation or precedent of future assignment. So I think what we talked about last time is what we're trying to get at here is that we're not duplicating it, and that the board was concerned about the voluntary aspect of, you don't want to restrict someone who wants to do those things, especially when it comes to the arts. But just trying to be clear there. So we cleaned up our counter a little bit to try to get to that intent. Okay, 2.10.5. Needed some assistance on this is my notes. So schedules for technical college instructors responsible for instructing, site supervising, and or assessing multiple site programs and or students shall be designed to account for travel time between locations, instructional continuity for adult learners, and adequate planning and preparation time. No instructor shall be assigned to multiple locations in a manner that results in a loss of planning time, excessive travel burden, unreasonable instructional duties. And then travel time between assigned supervisory locations shall be considered part of the workday. And I put a note that we need the board assistance on this. I think I don't remember.
And what we talked about is that the teachers at technical colleges fall under all the terms that exist in the contract that would protect these things. So
Okay.
if any teacher, whether it could be a music teacher that's split between two sites, or if it was a technical college teacher split between two sites, all those same provisions would already be in place.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're guaranteed your instructional planning time. The other pieces are here. You know, and like excessive travel burden, just like we would do hearings currently, you know, based off of what the needs are, is where now obviously there's a lot fewer technical colleges. So in terms of the locations of those, it's gonna be a little bit more limited in what can be paired.
Without having John here to
Yeah.
ask or to defer to, are there times where these instructors are going between sites on the same day or several
Yeah.
of them? Like,
Yeah.
like, go ahead.
Yeah, the notes that I had in talking with the supervisor is that none of them currently travel daily. That would not be part of their regular day. I think the point John made, if memory serves me correctly, had to do if somebody was going out to supervise students, kind of like an OJT, in my mind, that's what it was similar to.
Mhm.
And having to travel out to those sites to supervise them like in the workplace. But that would be different than their work assignment being split during the day.
The only note I see is that he just had clarified that this may have been more for adult ed. And, that we needed more information to try, I think that's why it was like, we needed help addressing it. And then I do remember you saying that this was already addressed and we had asked for, where this would kind of be covered in the language already and that we would look for it, so.
Yeah, and I think that's what it was about, the like preserving the planning time. You know, if somebody were to give up their planning time designated in their schedule, they would receive comp time for that. But we were not aware of them having to travel daily. And now that you say that, I remember John bringing something up about
Mhm.
Okay,
adult ed.
yeah,
So we'll
Yeah.
go back to the adult ed.
Make note, too long between sessions makes it hard to
I know,
remember.
it is, well, yeah,
Yeah,
I know.
I remember that now.
No, because, I'll take notes, I got things,
Yeah.
and I've got mine in the drive, I've got like 3 places where I have notes, so.
Right.
Yeah, well, that is true, I mean, we like dumped a lot of language and then we had to do 2 full sessions, yeah.
Took a detour.
Yeah,
did,
I know.
did.
Yeah, and again, even with adult ed though, I mean, any employee covered under the bargaining units is gonna have those same protections related to planning time, travel, all of those things, so.
Yeah, okay, all right, so then moving on, that was page 14, then page 16. This is 2.12.6. There was a piece of language here, job share positions shall not be involuntarily reassigned or reduced for the purpose of temporarily addressing staffing shortages at other work sites. When such reassignment would create comparable staffing shortages or increase class size at your same work site. This language had to do with, moving job share to kind of create a position that then impacted bargaining unit.
Yeah, we would follow our normal process if there was any sort of, reduction in terms, like I'm thinking of all units, right? We would follow the normal process to determine if a unit was going to be lost, in secondary English, let's just say, following what the language says about determining if anybody wanted to volunteer to go to the pool, and then if not, going to no score, low score, and moving up through that process. So whether it's a job share position or not would not be impacted by the existing language.
Okay,
The existing language would prevail.
okay. Okay, before we move on to 2.13, we had a pretty significant proposal in here for half-time employment for student services. So I had passed an MOU, because I think what we had heard is that the board would be interested in these practices in MOU. So essentially what I did, I think it was back there, is I took what was in the contract plan for an MOU. So this would be compensation for student services for 2027. Hillsborough County Public Schools and Hillsborough Classroom Teachers Association agreed to the following half-time employment and compensation agreement for student services personnel for the 2027 school year. The purpose of the program, Hillsborough County Half-Time Employment Program, is intended to assist in recruiting and maintaining qualified student services personnel in the district and shall be open to all student services personnel. And 1, the conditions of employment for participation in the halftime program for student services shall be as followed. A, the period of assignment shall be half of the scheduled hours per day for an aggregate of half of the work week. Any deviation from the schedule must be approved in advance by the Division of Human Resources. The student services personnel must be fully certified to provide services. The human resources and department will create halftime based on school vacancy and need of coverage. D, student services personnel shall be granted long-term leaves with permission of Division of Human Resources. 2, the period of services for purposes of this program shall be the regular work year for the position. Payment and benefits for the period of employment shall be computed as follows, using a 205-day calendar as an example. A, payment shall be equal to 50% of the individual's salary based on degree and experience for 205 days and 100% of the individual's salary for 11 non-pupil days. B, in addition to the above salary amounts, student services personnel shall also receive A, sick leave computed at the rate of 4 hours per month for each month worked. B, 6 half days or 24 hours of personal leave charged to the accumulated sick leave per year. C, halftime program participants may elect a board-provided single employee coverage subject to the board's cap on contributions. If this option is elected, the premium shall be 1/2 of the student services employee typical single employee medical coverage. D, non-optional benefits, security, Medicare, retirement, compensation, and life insurance shall be based upon the reduced salary, negotiated time off break, sick leave, vacation paid holiday, will accrue on pro rata 50% basis based upon the reduced salary. E, assignments will constitute for salary purposes more than 1/2 of the school year, thus entitling the participant 1 year of service on the salary schedule and credit for non-probationers. So it's what was in the language, it's in an MOU, so we can hopefully wordsmith.
Under number 1, letter D, student service personnel will be granted long-term leave of the Division of Human Resources. Existing person in the half-time program would be.
Yeah, I think we inherited last year.
We'll
Yep.
compare.
Yeah, we tried to just, yeah, that's what we were trying to do, but actually like do something for student services and call it halftime. And I think we proposed this a couple times, but we heard this time that maybe we'd be able to try it for a year under an MOU.
So the idea being that you don't have to have the other person for the job share. It's really just working to have to.
Correct. So. Open to, we'll come back to working on that. All right. Back to 2.13, school choice. I think instructional personnel shall be permitted to enroll their children from whom they are legally responsible in a school of their choice, space permitting. I know that there was no agreement to what we proposed,
Right.
but can we at least update instructional personnel?
Yes.
Okay. And then, yeah, there's just a little, if space is limited, instructional personnel's children will be given priority for the school at which they work. Not all of them should be, so that's the counter there.
Yes, I think our concern was just around the space
I know.
permitting piece, yes,
Yep.
and then. We took teach out and change it to work
Yeah.
because not everybody
Yeah.
is instructional. Okay.
And then 2.14.1 was agreed to. Okay, 2.15. We had proposed some significant language for media specialists and special rotation. So we tried to kind of tweak it a little bit to kind of get at what we're trying to start here. So 2.15.1, each school site shall have at least one certified library media specialist assigned exclusively to that school site. 2.15.2, library media specialists shall not be designated as special teachers for the purposes of master scheduling unless by mutual agreement between the library media specialist and the administration to provide instruction that supports student learning and equitable access to library services. 2.15.3, library media specialists shall not be required to provide regular or recurring services to more than one school site or assigned duties, schedules, coverage, responsibility that require routine absences from the assigned school site or assigned media center during the student day. And then 2.15.4, the media center shall not be used as an unscheduled student drop-off.
So we'll review that because it's a little bit of a change from
Yeah.
what that first proposal is.
Yeah, we heard that it was, there was a lot that we were trying to do. We wanted to start somewhere. A big part of this had to do with being on the wheel and the rotation for special services. Um, that, that's the goal here, that they're not, but if everybody's good with it, then.
Okay. All right, well,
And we've got our media specialist folks here to speak to it.
And honestly, I believe a lot of that language is about student access really to the media center.
Yeah.
And when we have classes in there and, we talk about a lot more when we're covering classes. And that's always been traditionally been a spot where students can go and get, the resources that they need, and that we're trying to maintain that or go back to that opportunity for kids.
we talked a lot last time about media specialists and their role and kind of the differences that we see happening. So appreciate that.
Yeah.
We'll work through it and come back to you on the next one.
If you have any more questions, we got some good experts. Yeah, all right. And 2.16, sign-in procedures and late arrival, early departure documentation. We try to kind of streamline this a little bit too. 2.16.1, the purposes of this section, an instructional personnel's report time and workday shall be established for the individual work site pursuant to section 2.4. That talks about what the workday is for everyone. 2.16.2, each work site shall utilize a district standardized sign-in procedure. Such procedure may be conducted through a school board approved electronic system or an approved paper sign-in form with an SB number. So we're still trying to get here where, like, can we find something consistent, and whether it's electronic or form can be determined at the site. So 2.16.3, where an electronic sign-in system is utilized, the board shall ensure sufficient functional access points, equipment to reasonably accommodate employees reporting at their established report time. Additionally, where an electronic sign-in system is utilized, an instructional personnel who is present and available for duty at this established report time due to delays caused by function. Power goes out, internet. 6.4, sign-in procedure shall not be utilized to initiate automatic payroll deductions in accordance with 2.4.5. I think 2.4.5 is where we talked about the reporting, not the accounting. So it's relating back to that. 2.16.5, if an instructional personnel's late arrival or early departure may result in leave usage pursuant to this section, documentation shall be completed through the approved electronic system or the approved form. The method of late and early arrival documentation shall be selected by the faculty during operation with the building administrator. 2.16.6, leave deductions shall occur only upon the employee's entry of leave in the district's payroll system or written email authorization for such entry.
Okay, so there's few adjustments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we try to just not make it so.
Yeah, and I think I shared last time, I mean, the concern is around the accuracy of payroll information. It's an official record. All of us are serving in roles that are funded by taxpayers. And so ensuring that we are reporting accurate time is important. We understand the union's position about the reporting and how that reporting document or online system is not being used to deduct by the minute is what I hear, right? In a lot of the other conversations we have throughout the year. So we'll take this back and come back to you with as well.
Yeah, I think, we're trying to create flexibility, but also that it's not like 250 different ways. And yeah, actually try to get to accuracy. So it is like everybody's accountable. So we share that intent. It's just, can we get to a place where there's a couple options, and then a small elementary school might not need an electronic sign-in. When I was teaching, it was signed in, there was, whatever, but that sign-in form might look different at, Rob's school compared to my school. So we're just trying to look for that and allowing the board to, whatever that may be.
And you all know this because you obviously collaborate and talk about the different concerns that you have at the schools that you work at. And when we move people's cheese a lot, right? And that creates a lot of more noise around these things. And so it's one of those where it's working. Don't come in and try to force me now to do something different than what I've been doing. So we also just want to be mindful of that. Sometimes we try to fix one issue and then we create others. So we'll come back. We understand what the request is.
Yeah, okay. And yes, and we understand the concern.
Okay.
All right. think, I don't know if I did 3.1.1. I think I may have stopped there. Hmm. I don't know. I don't remember if I went on to 3.
Yes, at Article 2.
Yeah. Okay.
That was good. No, there's a lot of good proposals back to us.
Yeah.
Addressing what some of the questions that we had last time we met. And that will give us a good starting place as well to present those back to you.
Yeah, and that was, again, accounting for the things that we knew, you know, for this time wouldn't go forward, but the things we heard were, well, be worked on. And then the goal is to do the thing with our next session, really try to knock it out, write this down. Okay.
That before we break, I just want to say that, you know, this activity is tedious and hard. And, you know, and it makes your brain swell a lot, mine as well as the team. But it's super important because, you know, we know that there are powers that be that want to remove collective bargaining and get rid of this process that we think is vital to really helping kids and having this communication. So we thank you for that. And even when we go back and we ask for things at the table, like an hour lunch for pre-planning, right? And you guys don't have to do that, so it doesn't happen, right? But we have no language, we know that it is happening. And, you know, when this is at stake for the employees that are both here and at home watching or whatever, talking about this, collective bargaining is really the meat and potatoes of what we do as a union to help, you know, represent the employees. We're the funnel here, and this is where it all happens. So I thank you for that. And I do want to point out about the 1 hour lunch as I'm talking about it, because I feel strongly about it, as you all know, that even talking to other districts that don't even work 8-hour days, they get an hour lunch for pre-planning. So I know that we're talking about language and we're going to get back to it next week. It is super important to me, to our bargaining team, and to the members that are here and at home that we get those things and we really look at the things that don't cost the district money. That is going to be super important to us, and it does not cost you any money, cost the employees money. And I know that there were some sites that were giving sandwiches and say, hey, you know, we want some of your time for a sandwich or a slice of pizza. You know, we appreciate the pizza and the sandwich. We do. I like it all. But, you know, we don't think it's equitable to time. So again, when we get down to that, that is super important to us, that when we really look at those items. So thank you again for all the time and working on this.
I was actually thinking that was in this section, but I don't think it is.
I think it's in section 3, okay, which is another like a lot.
A lot, yeah.
And we talked about uniformity. You know, most teachers got the hour lunch, but not all. And that, you know, that's a problem for me, you know, so working on that. So thank you.
And that becomes a problem across the unit. It's like, oh, you did and I didn't. And in some of the cases, it's literally like 15 minutes on like one day, and it's like, really? I don't know. So we'll get to that in section 3, I believe, but yeah. So
Well, and on that note, we just want to say that we hope everybody had a great pre-planning, because we know that it probably ended for most people's workday a while ago. So thank you for being here as well. We know it's been a long week, and look forward to school starting on Monday.
yeah, all right. So it's 4:22. What do you guys want to do?
So for us to go back and to present all of it, we wouldn't have anything to get to right now as well. And I think we had talked about there's no economic proposal being presented today from the union to us. So when we left our last session, we were able to successfully come to a tentative agreement around a TSA money, which is wonderful. We, like you, are excited to bring this to a close, both for language and for salaries. And so we really look forward to coming back on the 19th to be able to get through as much of this language as we can, and also to talk about the salary increases hopefully. And so we know that once the school year starts, employees have a lot of questions around that. And so we are eager to get there too.
And will you all have counters for some of those sections that you didn't counter last time?
On the language or on, on the language, we'll work through some of those as well to bring back, as well as what you just presented here in Article 2. And then based off the information that I looked back over, I believe our last counter to you is on the economic proposal, and so you all would hopefully be bringing something back to us.
Okay. All right, well, our next session is August 19th at 1 p.m.
Is there, is that just for
Yeah.
Yes, on the 19th is just for
Did we
instruction.
schedule for?
Yes, we're on the
Okay.
20th.
Oh, 20th.
On the 20th, yeah,
So then we'll have her cover.
yeah.
This one.
And I have a bunch of things that we TA'd last time that were just small things, so I don't know if you want to look over those.
Yeah, we can stay and do that.
Those were, they were just like, yeah, like date things.
Thank you.